such a time as right now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor Mike. We're going to move forward. We are so excited to have with us our MC for the day. He is my friend, my brother, and operates under the laws of activism in his own way. He is the host of Heart to Hearts with Nate Frazier. Let's please receive him with love. Thank you, Nate, for being here with us. You got to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Hello, everybody. The first person to introduce is Hakeem Crampton, who is advocate for justice. He also is the co-host of Heart to Hearts with Nate Frazier and Bill Amadea. So I'm going to turn this over to Hakeem Crampton.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It's a distinguished day here in January. Martin Luther King birthday. We're still celebrating peace and freedom and justice. And I'm excited to be here to be able to join you to share with you all some very important information relative to activism. For those that don't know me, my name is Hakeem Crampton. I work for Just Leadership USA, not only as a statewide organizer of advocacy campaigns, but I'm also a navigator working with nonprofit organizations across the country to help them improve and become more consistent and effective in their work they're doing through providing them with expertise through my experience. So I've been fortunate and unfortunate to a certain extent to be a person that has been directly impacted by the criminal justice system. And that unfortunate puts me in a fortunate position that allows me to be able to share my experiences, my perspective, and my knowledge with others. So I'm not going to be on here today preaching to you at all about social justice and activism and how you can get involved. I'm actually going to teach you a couple of things that I've learned along the way that are important for people that are prepared to get involved in activism, people that are prepared to sacrifice their mind, their body, and their heart to be involved in helping others. So my presentation today is called Free My People, right? Free Michigan people, because we have so many people that are incarcerated wrongly for extended periods of time that they shouldn't be, unjustly, and et cetera. And it's time for our people to come home. So some of you have been kind of called to answer that call of social justice activism, right? It's been edging inside you, and some people have been nudging you to get involved. And so here you are today, joining this distinguished program, and you're ready to get involved. You're ready to find out what it is, what does it take for a person like me to get involved? And not only that, who do I get involved with? How do I get involved? So these are some of the things that I want to present to you right away. So I'm going to have Trisha turn to slide 1, which I only have one slide. And I'm going to walk right through this slide. The first and most important thing for any activist who wants to get involved is what it is that you believe in. What do you believe in? What values do you have, right? We're talking about social justice. We're talking about equity. We're talking about fairness, right? We're talking about all the things of value that you can identify. You have to say to yourself that you believe in those things. You have to actually write those values down and say, I believe in justice. I believe in fairness. I believe in, equity. I believe in racial justice. Whatever it is you believe in, you need to identify those values. But then after you identify those values, number 2, you have to prioritize those values, right? Those values must now become goals, because you can have tons of values, but then you need to prioritize which values do I put at the top, because I'm prepared to get involved in activism, but I need to know what place in activism should I begin? What issue should I get involved in? Because many of us, we have many issues. My issue is education justice, right? Not just criminal justice and social justice, but first and foremost for me, education justice. So I have to prioritize, where do I put education justice at? Fighting against the school to prison pipeline. Where do I put that at with relation to criminal justice, for example, right? And in prioritizing these values, then I begin to move to number 3. After I prioritize them, I must find out who shares my values, right? And in asking the question of who shares my values, I have to begin to measure those values. Meaning I must compare the values that I have, because we can share values with some other people, but that doesn't mean that the shared value brings us together for a common cause, right? Meaning that I could share education justice with Perry Stone Palmquist, for example, right? She is the CEO and executive director of the Student Advocacy Center of Michigan, based out of Washtenaw County. We can share the same value on something, but in number 2, as I prioritize my goal may not be education justice, hers may be, right? Hers may be education justice first, mine may be social justice first. So therefore, whichever those priorities are, those values are, those goals, we have to measure them and compare them to determine which set of values do we put first. After you've identified your measures and your values, you move on to number 4, because remember, who shares my values? So you need to relationship build. You need to find a network to get involved with, right? Whether that network is Survivors Speak, Nation Outside, Michigan Liberation, whether it's Just Leadership USA, or whether it's a number of organizations and groups in your community or across the state, you need to start building a relationship with them. You need to reach out to people in your community who you need to build a relationship with. Start building that relationship and get in their network, get on email listservs, right? Start registering for things, start attending events like this. By you attending an event like this, you're expanding your network, you're building a network, because now you're gonna have connection to all these people here, not only the presenters, but to also the people that are in this group watching and listening with you. They become effectively a part of your network. So you have to relationship build. Lastly, you move to power. You can only move to power because the goal of the value that you believe in is to restore some form of justice or equity or parity back to people, because that's why you've gotten involved with the value that you believe in. But it ends with power. And the only way you can get power is by having a commitment and committing yourself with your network, with your values and the goals that you set, right? That's the only way you can amass power, is through building that network with your values and goals with the people that you work with in this cause, to extend the power so you can actually achieve the objectives for which you set out for in the original cause, right? So this is a very easy step process. And let me walk it through one more brief time, because I only have a few minutes left. What do you believe in? Do you believe in social justice? Is that your cause? Is it racial equity? Once you've identified the values that you believe in, you begin to prioritize those values. Set those values in a prioritized list of what comes first for you. What do you want to get involved in? For example, you could be a husband or a wife of someone that's incarcerated, and that may become your prioritized value, is to get involved in racial or criminal justice. And then you begin to compare your values, right? You begin to compare them to find out which of these goals do you prioritize, so you can begin to build relationships with those from those areas that share your values. And then you get into action. You get into action by your commitment. How is your commitment? If you are involved once a week, are you involved daily, once a month? Your level of commitment will determine the extent of your power, right? Because if you're not that committed, your power is weak. If you are firmly committed and you have a big network, then your power becomes stronger because your voice becomes stronger, right? And all these things, these 5 steps together, are the ABCs of what to do, how to get involved in activism. So now if we could turn to my final slide, Trisha, and I have some homework for you all, right? And it's roughly the same thing that we just mentioned. What causes exist in my community that share my value? I want you to take 3 things that you can find, causes in your community that people are fighting for. Here in my community, people are fighting for prosecutor accountability. People are fighting for police accountability, right? And people are fighting for social and racial equity here in my community. So those are 3 things that I can identify as a cause in my community. Who do I need to connect with to get involved? So if you're in my community, in Jackson, Michigan, for example, and you find a cause of criminal justice, Well, I'm a person that happens to be involved in criminal justice. So I would be a person you would connect with, right? You would connect with me and many others. So this is important homework that I want you guys to do, to find out what causes exist in your community, who is all involved in those causes, right? And who do you connect with? Sometimes you might have to do Facebook, Google search, or whatever the case may be, but you have to get involved. And the first step is to identify the values that you share, because that is going to set the stage for who you connect with and for how long of a duration your cause is going to go. Now, there's much more I could say about activism and getting involved in activism and advocacy. There's a lot more I could say, but I wanted to set the stage because I'm the first one in this presentation this afternoon. And I wanted to set the stage to give you a clear-cut examples of steps A, B, C, D on what you can do to actually get involved in activism. So I thank you for attending this session and listening to my brief presentation, and I'll pass it back to our wonderful host, Mr. Nate Frazier.
Thank you so much, Hakeem. That is Hakeem Crampton, you all from Just Leadership USA. Now, we got a little ahead of ourselves, and so we are going to back up just a moment because we want to talk about why we're here. Can we talk about that just for a moment? I know y'all can't talk back to me. I love when people talk back to me, but I know you can't do that today. Okay. So you are here with Are You an Activist? What's your role in this justice fight? Again, this is hosted by Survivor Speak, Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice, and Bend of Arc, Jewish Action, Greater Ann Arbor. Now, we're all excited to be here today, right? It is Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday weekend. So we are so excited to be here. What a day to commemorate, to be here together so that we can see what our role is and how we can get busy in this fight and take Dr. King's dream to a reality. Quick caption says, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. All right. Now, have you ever asked yourself these questions? I know that injustice is wrong, but what can I do about it? Where would I even start? When is it appropriate to speak up? Will my voice even be heard? I'm not a protester, so how can I be an activist? If you've ever thought anything like this, we are so glad you're here. Thank you for taking this first step. Activism is the policy or action using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. Activist, a person who campaigns to bring about political or social change. So we all have a role. Let's see where we all fall. Speak truth to power. You see here, picture, city council, our Washtenaw County commissioners. These are the individuals that you can stand and speak to at their meetings. You may not be a frontline protester. You may be that one that can connect with our legislators to impact and bring about change. And as it says, to help shape important policy. All right, on the front line. You all know I love being on the front line, right? And protesting. That may not be your role, but it is a very important role. Also, help shape the future of our youth. Youth empowerment. It is extremely important that our youth understand the special gifts that they have so that they can start to work in this justice fight. Also, kind donations to help make the movement go further. Community education and empowerment, like what we're doing here today as well. Now, those are just a few things, right? Don't think just because those slides are up there that those are your only areas. See, each and every one of us have a special gift or talent to offer. And it's up to us to figure out what that gift is and then contribute that gift to this moment. Again, we all have a place. If you understand a puzzle, each puzzle piece looks different. But when you put that puzzle together, it is a beautiful picture. And we want to leave you with this, the concept of one band, one sound. What does that really mean, right? It means this: we all have our own beautiful instruments that we must play. And it might sound slightly different than something else within the band, but what brings it together is that we are all playing the same beautiful song. So again, it is on our hearts to just encourage you all to join this fight. And as our brother Hakeem said, join in with organizations and networks that will help you understand how to best use your voice. Now, lastly, I'll just say, all that's missing from this fight is you. All right. Well, we are going to move further along. Next, we have a longtime statewide activist here locally in the area as well. He is my mentor and my friend, none other than Chuck Ream. Let's receive him with love.
Hi there, folks. Very happy to be invited here today. My name is Chuck Ream. I spent my life as a kindergarten teacher, a local elected official, a father, and an activist. I've been fighting for freedom for 54 years. I couldn't imagine living any other way. A real activist is someone who could not exist without fighting back. You would not be your real self. Part of you would be dead if you did not fight back and fight back with a strategy. In my 54 years of activism, I helped end the Vietnam War. I fought hard against racism and sexism. I helped preserve Mother Nature as a township trustee. I passed medical marijuana in Ann Arbor with 3 out of 4 voters voting yes. And I founded MI Legalize, which ended up successfully legalizing marijuana in Michigan. I stopped a new $300 million jail from being built in Washtenaw County. And I just helped psychedelic plants be decriminalized by Ann Arbor, and we have started Decriminalized Nature of Michigan. And ultimately, we will win freedom for all of the sacred and therapeutic plants on this earth. When you are an activist, you set a goal, and then you accomplish that goal, no matter what it takes. Your opponents should feel that only death could stop you. As I prepared for this, I looked for the quote from Margaret Mead about how a small group of committed people, citizens, can change the world. But then I stumbled upon another quote from her that stopped me in my tracks. Margaret Mead knew as much about human culture as anyone. And she said, never, ever depend on government or institutions to solve any major problems. All social change comes from the passion of individuals. Effective activists share common traits. Activists believe in themselves. Yes, everyone is racked by self-doubt, but an activist has a core that cannot be shaken. Many of you gained your strength from a family member, or from powerful books, or from inspirational leaders, or from unforgettable events, but for some reason you have an unshakable core of righteousness and determination. You know you could make a difference if you tried. Activists believe in their cause, and they can articulate the reasons why. If you are going to spread your cause, you have to be able to speak it and write it clearly. Activists prepare themselves. Make yourself valuable to the movement. Maybe you can't be an activist right now, but you can prepare yourself to be as powerful as possible when your time comes. Get another degree. Join school groups or clubs or churches where you can take a leadership role and practice your public speaking. Take jobs where you meet a lot of people and learn a lot. Become an expert in your field so you are the person that others turn to for information. Every individual is valuable in the struggle, but well-prepared leadership is essential for victory. Activists can show no fear. Of course, we all have fear, but if you allow it to show, your cause is dead. You must speak forcefully and clearly. Your arguments must be lined up logically. And then you make it clear that you will never back down. You always show up and you have supporters behind you, or maybe you're alone, but you never show fear. Many politicians don't want to be involved in a fight that will go on forever, and they may find a way to let your goal be accomplished. Activists look for excellent leadership. For a great victory, for an activist, victory is central, not personal recognition. Leadership is very valuable. We can't move forward without leaders and speakers. And within the movement for freedom, we have a horrible natural tendency to try to cut down and destroy our own leadership. If you find a good leader, support them and defend them and follow them straight to victory, and criticize them privately if you need to. If you have brilliance and intelligence and energy, you will become the leader, and your responsibility will grow, and you will grow into it, and people will try to cut you down for no reason. Tell them to go to hell. Leaders don't pop into existence. They develop over time and testing. Strongly support good leadership or you will lose. Activists plan. They plan strategy. Resources are limited. No energy can be wasted. We must plan out exactly what is needed to win and forget about the small stuff. Many political strategies are laid out in a multi-year plan, and then you have to stick to it and refine it and raise the intensity until you win. We have to know exactly where the power is exercised and gain influence right at that point. Activists enjoy themselves sometimes. It is exhilarating to change history or even to see forward progress. Very deep joy comes from fighting for what is absolutely right. If you stick with it, you will have victories. And the highest high is victory, far more exhilarating than any substance. But we will never let our greatest victories get us too high or our worst defeats get us too low, since the goal is to steadfastly move forward. Activists have personal discipline and they take their cause personally. It becomes part of their identity. Be strong, don't fail, make the struggle an I thing. You know you have to have a group to win, but still you say to yourself, even if I was all alone, I would never give up and I would fight until I win. Put everything into winning, but don't be a suicide if you fail. I've seen enough of that. It isn't productive. Activists understand the role of emotion. If you are very highly emotional, you are ignored. If you are dry and analytical, you are ignored. Emotions are extremely powerful politically. Decisions are usually made on the basis of emotion rather than reason. When you put some powerful emotion into your speaking, your audience will wake up. People will pay attention. Your emotion must be very well informed and completely controlled, but then feel free to let it show. We are emotional about outrageous evil. I have won more things than I ever thought possible. So now I will begin to work harder. When you gain traction, you know you must persevere. In Washtenaw County right now, I have to mention a unique situation. Our court system has looked for decades like a parade of young Black people. In Washtenaw County, now we have an elected prosecutor dedicated to justice. He has made fundamental changes about refusing to prosecute people for meaningless crimes, but he is going to run into opposition. We've got to support him and forcefully support the reforms that he has created. And you can improve upon the things that I have done in two ways. First, you can learn to use all the modern communications techniques while you are always prioritizing and not wasting time with them. And second, you can talk to elected officials. I never did that. I just looked at everything like it was a war. Elected officials are people, and sometimes they will listen. Be an activist, fight back, make the real world into your video game. On your deathbed, you will know that your life has been used well. Power to the people.
Thank you so much, Chuck. That was so inspiring. And yes, power to the people. We truly honor the work that you have done, and we stand on your shoulders and we move forward fighting for justice. So thank you again.
Thank you, Touche.
All right, everyone. We have another poll there that we want to take. So I will launch that and we will move forward. Okay. We are so excited. Our next speaker for the day is my sister. She's my friend. I met her on the road to fighting for freedom for her son who was wrongly incarcerated. So please, let's show some warm love again for my sister and my friend, Janice J. Love Green.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you, Trisha. I want to say I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm an aunt, I'm a leader. I'm loved, I'm powerful, and I am an activist. I am also the creator of the Justice for Gerard movement, and also turning a moment into a movement. The moment came for me when my son was wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he didn't do. And from that day, I just kept moving. I like what Hakeem said earlier, and I didn't know I followed some of those steps that he put out there, but subconsciously, I was following those steps. I got out. I didn't know what to do, but I knew what I believed in. And I got out, I started networking, and I met Trichet and some people from Michigan Liberations, and I eventually met Hakeem and others, and created this movement for the wrongfully incarcerated. My goal is to inspire and educate our community about wrongful incarcerations. It's more like an epidemic. It happens more often than we think. There are so many of our loved ones, our family and friends are locked up for things that they haven't done. And so I use my platform to speak out against wrongful incarceration. And by using my platform, I attracted others who I call my tribe to step in with me and allow me to share my story and to share stories of others. I want to say to become an activist, or to join activism, I think it starts with your mindset. You have to transform your mind. You have to understand that you have to change your thinking about things, and you have to look at it as a different perspective. And so we started doing that by educating, and that's what we're doing with turning a moment into a movement. We're educating our community to inspire others to use their voices because there's strength in numbers. I want to show a video right quick of that we received from Rashida Tlaib for our wrongful conviction rally that we had in October.
Hi, everyone. It's Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. I want to take a moment and thank Mother Janice and so many others that have been sharing their incredible stories of wrongful conviction and the emotional toll it has had on their families. I want to also take a moment in understanding that right now our systems are broken, that systemic racism is not only in our corrections and judicial system, but it's also impacting the economic divide and the broken systems of healthcare, education, and so much more. So I want to take a moment and thank all of you for your incredibly important work. And thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing and fighting back against wrongful convictions. We need your voice, and we need to make sure that we put a human face again to these broken systems and truly end mass incarceration and truly end systemic racism in our country. So thank you, Mother Janice, for leading the way. And thank you all to the mothers and to the uncles and sons and daughters and sisters that I've heard from. Thank you again for inspiring me to work even harder.
Thank you. I was so honored to get that from our Congresswoman. And I just want to tell you guys that, you know, it just starts with activism, start with taking a step, finding your something that you believe in, and finding a lane that you're comfortable with. And then like Hakeem said earlier, to get out and start networking and finding a group that that you are comfortable with working with. It's important that we tell our stories, and because when we tell our own stories, we control the narrative. The power is in your voice. Change starts with you, and when we organize, we win. I know I hear that every Friday for Sam, but on his radio show, but that's true. We must use our platforms to organize, and that's what we're doing with the Justice for Gerard movement, giving a voice to other mothers and other people who didn't feel comfortable or even thought they had a voice. We all have a voice. I am a true believer that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And change happens when when those who are not affected are just as outraged as those who are. So, and that comes from us getting out here and using our voice. Again, I want to thank you, Trisha, and Survivor Speak. And it was an honor to just be here amongst all these great activists. And thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so very much. We honor the work that you are doing, and we are so thankful to be fighting alongside you. So again, thank you so much. All right, next up, we're going to keep rolling. This is another one of, I would like to call her my sister, my friend in the struggle. We have stood side to side fighting in Livonia. She also is fighting in Dearborn with Dearborn Accountability. She also is with Michigan Liberation. So we are thankful to have with us right now, Alexandria Hughes. We so affectionately call her Allie.
Thank you so much, Trisha. Thank you. Yes, activism. Everybody, start by saying everyone has it, or everyone can be an activist. First, I want to start by telling you a little bit about me. As Trisha said, I'm with Michigan Liberation, Accountability for Dearborn. My work specifically focuses on Black people, people of color. There is a cycle of hate that continues and that is damaging our mental health and well-being. I'm also a firm believer that a woman's body is not a group discussion. And I firmly try to uphold that within every movement and every org that I am in. What makes me an activist is my heart. Constantly forces me to care. And when I was 18, and this, what Mr. Ream said really resonated with me in terms of you can't live without it. He said it a lot better than I'm saying it, but that was really nice and that really resonated with me. When I was 18, parents trying to get me to, go to college, get a job, so, I can leave the house, stuff like that. And I said I wanted to change the world. And them as a response, what are you talking about? We need you to, be successful. They all know what I'm talking about. Passionate in that time, I broke down in tears. I didn't know everything about the world at 18, but going to a school that was all white and having those experiences, I knew something was wrong. And since then, I've always been into activism. For me, it's not necessarily a way I can turn it off with activism. It's more like monitoring it and allowing myself to have self-care in order for me to keep functioning, because activism is never turned off. There's always something I'm noticing wrong about the world and I'm always calling it out, and I can't help that. I say all that to say everyone has that it factor. They have that gift, that special thing about them that makes them a valuable part of the movement, that makes everyone allowed to be in the movement. For me, I know the certain things I'm passionate about and certain things I bring to the table that make me stand out in the movement. Everybody's is different. It's not always what you see on the front lines. It looks many ways, and there's many things I don't even have that other people are more beneficial for. And that's why we need everybody in this movement. Everybody has those capabilities. And then on the next slide, so the movement of anti-racism, the fight is for everybody. And I say that because it encompasses so many things, like whether it's women's rights, whether it's the LGBTQ movement, whether it's fair wage, all of it traces back to white supremacy. The roots are white supremacy. That's where it all comes from. And you can even go back in history and look at, you think affirmative action, you think benefiting people of color. The biggest group that benefited from that were women, specifically white women. And then even thinking about a year before that, in 1960, women had the right to open a bank account. Coming to now, you see that benefited white women the most. But clearly, that act that was put in place because of members of the civil rights movement. A lot of people of color, Black people, were working to make sure those things were brought to the table. It wasn't just for them. That was for everybody. So this is why I say everyone has a place in this movement. Same thing with the Civil Rights Act. That Civil Rights Act started a stream, 1964 Civil Rights Act started a stream of other bills. The Voting Rights Act came after 65, Immigration Act, Fair Housing Act, all those came after. Martin Luther King and many other activists were working to make sure those things were put on the table, thinking about how they've been discriminated against. But these helped everybody, and they're still helping everybody now. Just recently, I heard something where over the summer where Trump was trying to, in terms of like LGBTQ rights, he was trying to strip away some rights for that. And that got shut down because of, I believe one of these, that whether it was civil rights, it was one of them, but it got completely shut down because of that. So this includes everybody. This fight is including everybody. You cannot fight for women's rights without fighting for Black women. That it just does not work. Race is involved in all of these movements. All of these different pieces of the movement trace back to white supremacy and anti-Blackness. So this is why we are all, as activists, we all must fight this struggle, the anti-racism fight. There's a place for everybody. And then the next, just the next slide. In terms of activism, there are many benefits. I know it can seem like a hard road, it can seem tough at times, it can seem like a lot. But once again, it's whatever works for everyone's different. Not everybody's activists the same way as each other. And there's power in learning. The learning, and as J. Love said, the learning and educating yourself benefits you in your personal life. It starts that healing process for the groups that you are in, whether white or Black, the groups that you're in, the social groups, your family, things like that. It starts that healing process for us to have a better life, to have the different things that we do want. And, you know, with that learning, you have to implement that into your life. That should be the biggest thing. Implementing that and making sure that you're trying to reflect that in your societies, different social groups. Constantly learning in activism means that there's more possibilities for what change can look like. We only know so much because of what our world has given us. Our worlds, and everybody, I say our worlds because everybody, we're all in America, but there's clearly a different part of the world, part of America that we have experienced in each other. So we've only been exposed to so much information, and on purpose, not the right information, which is why we are here today as activists, are looking into activism as well. And that is why the continuous learning opens up the doors for more change. So you constantly have to be seeking and open to hearing new things. And when you hear your idea about a different project or something like that isn't the best that you could have, then okay, educate me. Like, education personally benefits you and benefits the world you're trying to create. Personally, with me, as a Black woman, I know there's trauma, generational trauma I have, and that didn't hit me completely till last summer when everything happened with the George Floyd uprising. Some feelings I've never had in my life came up, different, like depression, things like that. And it was generational trauma. And not that I was suppressing it, but, I educated myself and woke up to the fact that I need to learn certain things so I can take care of me. I need to adopt certain things. I need to educate myself so it better my life personally. Everyone in activism, constantly learning is definitely a key. So then this is just kind of an example of that. Say, say, for example, Janet, she is looking to get an oversight committee because she thinks that, police isn't safe for her. She's a domestic violence survivor. And she knows that the abuse rates in terms of police officers being the abuser, that is a high rate, very high. And she doesn't feel safe just relying on them as people trying to keep her safe. She doesn't like that. So her idea is police oversight. Wants to get police oversight, a board or something like that. And that's enough for her, just having that oversight. Now, this is why continuous learning is necessary. So go to the next one. Like, this has been done like all prior to, like, it seems very new. This oversight idea can seem new because of where we are currently in the world and how things have changed, but it is not very new. In the 90s, they've had oversight. This is, so you can't just paint something one way off of your experiences. They've tried this over and over. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, this can't be the end all be all, just having this, if it's been done many times. So you have to keep challenging yourself and educating yourself. And this is just an example of why I say we should continuously educate ourselves and learn and be open to that, because we open up the doors to more possibilities of a better world, to more possibilities of what change could look like. And knowing those possibilities of what change can look like will benefit everybody. It's because we're implementing the right things at the end of the day. If we're constantly seeking those things so that we have the right answers. And then this last one is just, this is just some organizations to get involved in. These are the ones that I am a part of. This lastly, I want to say, I don't know, in activism, you have to believe in yourself and be able to envision a better world and know that you have those gifts. Whatever they are, you have them. Everybody does. And we need each other. We all need each other.
Thank you so much, Allie. That was so beautiful. And you are exactly right. When it comes to this fight, no matter what area we're fighting in, we have to do it together. So we are truly excited to have with us. We're going to pause for our keynote speaker, actually. She is the CEO of Leadership Legacy Consulting. She is known to many across this country, and we're honored to have her here, Dr. Shelley Jones Holt. Please let's receive her with warm hearts.
Hello, everyone. Let me get myself. Hello, everyone. Can you see me okay? Just checking.
Yes, we can see you well.
All right. My apologies, everybody. I am not the greatest. I just got a new computer, and you know what? I'm going to do something real quick. I got to go to Old Faithful just because this one is not doing what I needed.
You want us to have the next speaker and then come back to you?
You know what? Yeah, because I'm gonna transfer over to my Old Faithful. I can't. I'm trying, and yeah.
Okay.
Let me just transfer over. All right.
Take your time.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All righty, we are going to keep moving forward. Oh my goodness. So definitely excited to have this amazing woman. She is just a powerhouse here in the Washtenaw County area. She is definitely an activist, and she is with Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice. Please, let's receive Desiree Simmons with some warm hearts and love.
Hi, thanks for that, Trisha. I need to have like a hype woman follow me everywhere I go. That felt great. Hello, everyone. Thanks. I can't see you, but I'm happy to be in the same space as you. I want to just say thank you to Survivors Speak for hosting this and having all of us. It's been great just listening to everyone else. So I just kind of have a few notes, a couple of things I want to kind of talk through when thinking about activism, what that means. And I think I'm kind of going to come at it a little differently, but a lot of the same themes actually. So one is that right now I've been thinking a lot about just the word like sufficient, like what is sufficient? I was looking it up, sufficient is enough and it's adequate. And I've been thinking that one of the indicators for me about being an activist is that you look around and you can see the insufficiencies in the systems around you. And you can think about what is unacceptable. And then we are driven then to challenge those things. And one of the things that I've been seeing and thinking about a lot more is how we need to continue and push further to challenge what we have settled for. So I want to just take a second. I'm a big about participation. So we have a couple of chat prompts. So I want you to just, for folks in the audience, just think about one area of injustice that you see around you, that you experience, that you know is in your community. And I want you to just take a second to note where we are right now. What does the reality look like today? And then as you think about what that looks like now, if folks could just in the chat, if you just want to share kind of what does the basic level of sufficiency look like for you in that area? So based on where we are today, what does sufficient look like? What is enough and is adequate in the area of injustice that you are going to think about today? So just as folks are kind of thinking about that, I've been thinking about this a little bit. One of the areas that I do organizing in is in housing. And I've been having a lot of conversations and, I kind of am in a couple of different spheres. So thinking about there's different spheres of kind of where activism is happening, right? And so it's happening in, different political spheres, different kind of community group spheres. And folks, I've been, as I've been talking to some groups of organizers and activists, they're like, people are still on the street, right? It's wintertime. And some other folks are like, oh, but there's all these resources, right? And it's like, that's great that there's all these resources. And also, they're not sufficient. Because to me, sufficiency is that everyone is housed safely as a starting point. Because there's more places to go from there. As we kind of move through this, we think about the goal being to move from sufficiency to thriving. And that's for me what's really, as one of the things that we're going to talk about, that's one of the things that drives me in my activism is a feeling that we are going to reach what thriving looks like, right? Because to me, survival is not enough. That's not what I want to pass on to my daughter. So I'm seeing folks adding some things in the chat. Thank you. I can't wait to look back at them. So we're going to think about how we move from sufficiency to thriving. So the next thing now that we recognize what is sufficient, what does sharing time within your role look like? So I want to just dispel, I want to say there's a myth that one leader is going to save us, know everything, and always be right. Let me say that again. One leader is not going to save us, know everything, or always be right. And I think that this is something we have to move away from, because we need more people to see themselves in the space, see that they have a role to play, because otherwise we're all going to just all burn out. People are already in that place. As I've been learning from people who were either activists when they were younger, so they say like, I used to be an activist, or people who are older and elder activists now who've been doing it for a long time. I've been learning a lot about capacity, right? I've been learning a lot about, they say things like, oh, we're just waiting for y'all to take over. We want to step aside. We want to pass the mantle on, right? Which, yes, they've been doing it for a long time. They should be able to. And I think about, well, what are the reasons why they feel like they cannot? Because and then how do we make sure that we are building the capacity so that more people actually are able to find their role in their place, right? And so how do we share that? Because there's these cycles of activation that kind of get us to start up where, there's a lot of energy, we put out this energy, and then there's a drop. And then it has to build all the way back up again, right? To me, it's like, well, what do we do to start jumping that gap? How do we not have the movement cycle have a dip because we don't have capacity? One of the ways is having more people, right? Having more people as part of that process. So, and then more coordination so that we are able to know that somebody's going to push real hard for the first quarter mile, and then they're going to pass the baton. This is taking me back to my track and field days, y'all. Pass the baton on to someone else who's going to continue, because that's what it's going to take for us now, because we're running out of time. We have to recognize the time clock, doing climate justice work and recognizing that we are heading toward a cliff, right? Not only did we see insurrection, which is showing that even, our governance, right? That there's a lot of things that are kind of fractured, and some are fractured for the good, right? Because these systems haven't been working for us. But we need to think about what is going to fill that void. So one of the things I've realized is that, for me, struggle, it's become a cycle, right? Where it's always because of these dips that you have to dip down, and then there's struggle, right? And you have to build back up to get to this place. So how do we stop that and not pass it on generationally? And so for me, I think about the generations of survival instincts that I've inherited from my lineage, and that I can't let all that work, all that energy that's been poured into me to be ruined by a lack of ability to imagine better. And so that's highlighted the importance to me about understanding role, because I need to always keep that space to imagine better and to be able to help others to imagine better, because we need better. We deserve better. We need to expect more. And so the other thing I just want to say too is that I've been thinking a lot, people talk about sharing resources so much, and that's so important to this work. But I've been thinking that one of the resources that is so hard to share, but that we need to share more, is the resource of time. Because one of the things I see is that certain groups of folks wind up having to spend all the time fighting the system, both in terms of their own material, needs, but then also to have to advocate and to have to constantly face the city council's barriers themselves, right? We need to be able to better wrap and loving community around folks, but also to make sure that they have time to do the other things they need to do, right? I have a 3-year-old daughter, almost 4. I have to clean my house too sometimes, just like have a paid job too, like everyone else. if I want to garden, it's just all these things that are important to keep in mind. And then just to think about how to start, is really keeping up with what is your organizing home. Who is going to help you to grow and to continue to push you. I'm a experiential learner myself, so I always feel like I have to jump into things to learn how it works, and then to know whether it's a good fit for me. But some people may not need that. You might like to jump in deep into one area. You might want to try different things. You might want to find an organizing home where they're maybe doing work in different areas. You want to always think about the connections. I'm one of those people that see connections in everything, which is part of the reason why I organize in so many different areas, but you don't want to let that overwhelm you. Okay. You have to figure out your own capacity in that, and to focus on relationships, right? So if you build relationships with others, then you know that there's other needs are going to be covered. And so you want to build relationships with others who will challenge you, who come with different perspectives, different approaches, different skill sets, and folks that you can gel with, right? Because to do this work, you want to be feeling love with you. You want to be able to have folks who that you can say, did you see that? And that they are going to feel that too. And so I have to just do a quick plug for Interfaith Council for Peace and Justice as a place that could be an organizing home for you. You can check us out at icpj.org. And then the last area I just want to talk about is when doing this, that we need to be thinking about how we remove toxicity from these spaces, how we're building belonging, and how we're making justice irresistible. Because it can be hard to sit in truth, right? A lot of us, we're doing work where we're talking to folks, trying to help people to see issues, and we need to do what it will take to both sit in that discomfort, but we have to build differently. We don't want to give up on democracy. This experiment needs a reboot. But we need to build differently. We can't use the same kind of ways of thinking to think that that's going to get us separate. So I want you to think about, what does it look like for you to belong in the space? And then as I'm closing out, to think about thinking back to that issue area that you started with. What does it look like to thrive, and for all to thrive? Not just one, for all to thrive. And how do we let that vision of what that looks like be what drives us? Not the insufficiency of today, but the thriving vision that we have for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very powerful. Very powerful. Well, we are going to keep rolling here. We are putting up another poll. If you can just quickly answer that, and we can move forward. All right, we are bringing back to the mic, I guess you would say, Dr. Shelley Holt.
Now I'm unmuted. Can everyone see my screen okay? Rebecca, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. So hello, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Dr. Shelley Jones Holt, and I am the leader of Leadership Legacy Consulting Group. And I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about anti-racism activism and where it starts. I, like the young lady who spoke right before me, I'm one of those, I guess you could say I'm a little bit older now, which is kind of hard to face because in my mind, I'm still 25, just saying. But I've been in this anti-racism fight now going on over 40 years. I was kind of born into it. And with being the parent, being the daughter of activists, and all I can say right now is that we have to, as activists and social justice warriors, I'm going to talk to you all about taking care of yourself and where this starts. You see, many times we like to talk about what we need to do outside of our communities and outside of our homes, but today we're going to talk about where the anti-racism movement actually begins. And it actually begins in each and every one of our homes. And so, I wanted to get, because of who I am, I always have to give my credentials first, because oftentimes folks don't believe what I'm saying, or it doesn't have validity until they see all the degrees behind my name. So if that's important to you, there it is. But this is what's important to me. My professional journey is that I started as a classroom teacher, and that's important to me because my goal was always to work with children and to help children. Very quickly, as I became a professional leader, it was seen that I saw that many of the adults had issues. This came to light for me very clearly when we were protesting out in Oakland Unified, when they were starting to come against the Ebonics movement, which was completely misconstrued by the media. But here I was, a brand new teacher, fresh out of Berkeley. So protesting and activism is in my bones. And my first job, within 2 months, I'm right back on the picket line. So let's just say I was very, very excited to have that moment. But what I realized very quickly was that the system that we were working within was not designed for what we needed to do with our children. And so I made the decision very quickly then and said, well, I started to learn the system. Let's learn about these systems, which many of us in the anti-racism and activism space do. We heard people earlier talking about, you need to know who your people are that you can go talk to. You need to know who the legislators are. You need to know who the people in positional power are and be able to influence their thinking for the agenda that we know is right for our purposes. Well, I did just that. I went ahead and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to be authentically me. And I have no problem doing that. And I'm going to get to the place where I can be the person sitting behind there making those decisions, because I saw very quickly how easily people were dismissed, how easily messages were contorted and misconstrued. And I figured, you know what, if we get in the rooms where the decisions are being made, we should be able to move forward with those decisions. And so with all of that being said, and all the professional journey, I had all these accolades. This is who I am as a person, but this is who people really wanted to see, were the positions and accolades and all the things that I was able to do. Well, let me tell you something. Amidst all that journey, what I realized a couple of years ago in this anti-racism and social justice fight, I knew flat out, quite frankly, they tell you when you start getting into this work to put 3 to 6 months of pay into the bank, because not only will you have opposition and barriers, it's not a matter of if you'll be fired or if you're going to go somewhere, it's a matter of when. Because quite frankly, we knew at that time that the world was not ready for our kind of leadership, not ready for what it is we're going to do, but we were going to do it anyway, because we don't ask permission for equity work. That being said, I learned that amidst all this, I had one job and I wasn't doing it. See, what I learned is that I thought my job and my profession and my career were the same thing. Boy, was I wrong. And if you still think your job, your profession, and your career are the same thing, I'm going to tell you right now, you're sitting on the wrong side of this as well. Because our job and our profession and our career are very different from our job. See, my career was as an educator. I held the position of superintendent. That was my previous position. That was my profession, right? But my job, I was failing. None of this was my job. What I realized very quickly was I had to ask myself some essential questions, which I will ask you. The question is, The question is, I had to ask, if I'm an anti-racism warrior, where does racism start? And we know that racism starts at home. Then I started to ask myself the question, well, where is it continued or perpetuated? And I was thinking, well, it's perpetuated, and we all know this in our circles and by what we allow. And I'm not going to take the time to explain this because I'm talking to social justice warriors. And if this is something that we have to discuss, then that's another conversation for another time. But I went ahead and cut out the middleman and just, we're going to have to accept these as universal truths. So if these are universal truths, and if we know racism starts at home and it continues within the circles that within which we surround ourselves, then the question becomes, well, where does anti-racism start? And where are the circles for those of us that want to raise our families to be intentionally anti-racist? I'll let you marinate on that for a moment. Where do we go if we want to raise our children and raise our families with an anti-racism lens? Where do we go for support? Where do we go for the answers if that is what we're trying to do? Well, I can tell you that as social justice warriors, you have one job. You may have a profession, you may have a career, you may have passions, but you have one job. And the moment any of us decide that we are going to have children, we have one job, and that is to lead our families for anti-racism. There's nothing more important in the anti-racism work that we do than the people that we raise, that we are putting out into the world. I'll let you marinate on that for a moment. We are not God. We are not destined to go out here and, save the whole world and give up our sons. That's not our job. That's not our job. But what I realized as I was doing this job is that I should say not doing this job, while I was focused on my profession and excelling in my profession, I was failing at my job. You see, right around the time that all this mess was happening, right around the time that everything kind of went to heck in a handbasket, right around the time that everything was successful for me and my job, I had the contract, I had the position, I had everything. I was in a great leveraging position. My family, my marriage was going great. I am a mother of, as you saw, 7 children, 5 that I birthed. Everything was going wonderful. But amidst all this, in the district where I work, my son tried to commit suicide. My son, my baby. So I was doing all this work for everybody else, but what was going on at home? And he needed me at home. He needed me because when you are the child of a social justice warrior, we don't even realize what our children are going through on a regular basis. We don't even see it because we're so busy in the passions, and we're like, hey, you know what? I'm educated. I got this together. My kids, have everything they need to eat. They're going, I know what's happening in their schools. I'm the soup, for Christ's sake, right? I should know, right? Wrong. We have one job, warriors, one job. And that job is to take care of your family and ensure that your children that you are raising are intentionally anti-racist. Everything else comes secondary to that. Now, I am not saying that I'm going to stop social justice work. As you can see, I'm here right here today. I'm here and we're doing this. But see, COVID-19 has given us a beautiful opportunity. The quarantine has given us a beautiful opportunity. The situation we're in has given us a beautiful opportunity, and that's to reclaim our families. And as we reclaim our families and what we're doing, the question becomes, how are you, social justice warriors, modeling the anti-racist family structure that we know needs to happen if we are going to move forward in this work? Because you see, them people that went ahead and stormed the Capitol, them people that went ahead and lynched children, them people that are now sitting up here trying to excuse these actions, these are the same people that were raised by who? I'll wait. They were raised in homes. They were raised in communities, and all of them were not raised in homes with Nazi flags hanging on the side of them. They were raised in homes where racism was ignored. They were raised in homes where discrimination was seen as a nuisance. They were raised in homes that did not talk intentionally and specifically about anti-racism. You see, folks, we have insurance on all kinds of stuff. We got insurance for our medical. We have insurance for our health. We have insurance for our bodies. I even heard J-Lo got insurance for her booty. Yes, I did hear that. I actually looked it up, and I think it's true because they didn't fact check it on Facebook. I'm just saying. So we know that we have all these different insurances. What is the insurance policy that you have for your family, warrior, to ensure that you are leading your family for anti-racism? See, we can't save the whole world and our homes fall apart. That's not the way this works. You see, we know the journey that people have to go on from equality, because we know we have equality. We know we're going for equity. We know we're going for justice. I'm not going to take too long on this. We know we're working to lead for anti-racism. This is not the question. The question becomes, we know anti-racism. The question becomes, warriors, I'm going to ask you, do you really know what family leadership means? Do you know what you have to do to lead your family? Where were we taught all these things? And I'm not talking about just knowing how to do the dishes or pay a bill or things like that, but how do we know how to balance what's going on in our lives so that we can give everything that we can to the mission and to what we're trying to do while not losing our children and our homes and our marriages? You see, when I entered the superintendency, they prepared me for a lot of this, and my husband. I went through several workshops to make sure, because my biggest thing was I could care less about a particular career. At the end of the day, I wanted to have my husband at the end of this. And one of the statistics that we know, particularly around African-American women in the superintendency, is that they tend to either not get married, get divorced, and die very quickly afterwards. That's the data, folks. Go ahead and look it up. You don't have to believe me. So that made me think about, my son was almost a casualty of this war. And I don't know about you, but I'm not giving up my baby to this war. None of them. And so we started to think about what are the areas of family leadership legacy. So I took all of the work that had been, all of the training, all the knowledge, all that I had been learning, all these 20-something years in the educational system and in this oppressive system that has been halfway educating our kids, and that's being kind, to be honest. But I took all of that and I said, well, what are the 5 areas? If we were just to break down family leadership into 5 areas, what would that look like? And this is what we came up with. 5 areas of leadership legacy that we as warriors must balance if we are really going to do this job well. Personal leadership is the first one. That's your connection to self and your nuclear family. How are you taking care of yourself? If this ain't right, none of this is going to be right. And so we have to be grounded. We have to know who we are and grow ourselves daily. Personal leadership has to do with our values, our morals, and our ethics. It's not just what we say and what we preach and what we go to on Sunday and say that we're going to do. It's about the actions that we take on a regular basis. And let me tell you, no one's perfect, especially me. I'm working on this just like everybody else, right? It's a lifelong journey. And we lead for personal leadership with an anti-racism lens. So my values, my morals, my ethics, automatically, because it's already in me, I have that anti-racism lens, as do each and every one of you, I know. The second area is career professional leadership. And let me be very clear, folks. This is the only job of the school system. They are not there to raise our children. They are there to help them read and write and know the basic skills that they need to be able to find a career or profession. But raising them is your job, our job, the job of the people around us. And so we have to make sure we put those positions in their rightful place in the hierarchy of our lives, right? So career professional development, that's just your skills, abilities, certifications, and it's your primary way of making money, mastering those soft skills and networking and all of those wonderful attributes that we know we need to have. The next one is relational leadership. That's our connection to family, friends, and community. This is where we are models, warriors, for what anti-racism should look like in our communities. We have to be those models. Why? Because we do not have a historic model of an anti-racist society. I'll say that again. We do not have on this earth a model of anti-racist leadership in any society. And I'm including Finland and Switzerland, all those others that maybe been doing better with coronavirus than the rest of us. But if you dig deeper in every society that now we have on earth based on the original sin of racism, we have it everywhere. So we don't have any models of what we're trying to do. So we have to be those models, right? So how do we relate to others in a way like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg says, to bring other people along with us, right? The fourth area is financial leadership. We've got to know our money, folks. We can make money, and that's where your career comes in. And that's not the job of the school system to tell you, though, about how to make your money work for you. How are you making your money work for you? How are you helping your children make their money work for them? Are your kids in the Black business school or any kind of business school right now? Are your kids mastering the stock market, understanding finances? This is a beautiful time. The good Lord sent us home. He put everybody on punishment. So now that we're on punishment, what can we do to now use this opportunity to uplift our families? We have to focus on using our monies wisely. And finally, home leadership. That's building a house and taking care of it as your home. I'm going to tell you a quick story. This same young man who God knows I love, he just turned 20 earlier last month. And I'll never forget how he was washing the dishes and I walked by him and I said, hey, baby, you got to put some elbow grease into those. And so I kept on walking. You know how you do it in the house and you just keep on moving. And I walked back and all of the chemicals from underneath the sink are out in the middle of my floor. And I'm walking by, I'm going, what are you doing? And he sits there with tears in his eyes. And yes, he's about 12 years old. He goes, Mom, I can't find the elbow grease. And I just cracked up because that was hilarious. He could, Lord, today, we've got to teach our kids how to put some elbow grease and stuff and that it's not under the sink, right? But they also need to know things like what's the difference between a mortgage and a loan and rent and, when to, how to light the pilot in a water heater. How often should we change the air filters in the house? Like they need to know how to run a household. And many kids do not do that. And I can tell you as we started to move forward, I am all about making things happen. I am not about whining about the problems. I'm about the solutions, right? So our anti-racist family leadership means that you are leading your family to be able to balance the 5 areas of leadership with an intentionally anti-racist lens. We're not going to leave this to chance. We're not going to leave this to happenstance. We don't leave anything important to us to chance. We focus on, and we have insurance policies on everything that is of value. So I have to ask you folks, what is your insurance policy for you to raise your family with an anti-racist lens? Well, here's where we come in to help. We are creating a village. And so we know that it takes a village to raise our children. It takes a village to do this work, and we have to be each other's village. We have to be the first ones to step up when our sister or brother is having a moment and be like, what is it? I got you. What do you need? Oh, you need me to keep the kids because you're going to a rally? Drop them off. Because I tell you right now, I'm too old. I'm not going out there no more. I've done it all. I've done it. I'm not doing that. But I'll be right here to watch the kids. I will definitely organize groups. And this is our anti-racism mission. So I ask you folks, if you are interested in forming a village of anti-racism warriors that we can raise our families with this kind of a lens, we need to form the village. The village is not going to be formed for us. So I ask you to, this is my only call to action to you. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just going to ask you to join our groups. Join us. Get involved in the conversations that are happening online. Be a voice for people that are looking for somewhere to go. See, everything is not, all the protests don't always have to happen at the walls of the justice system. Right now, we have people sitting at home watching what's going on in the news, and they don't know how to talk to their kids. They don't know the history. They don't know why this is happening. Guess who does? We do. So how about we just drip our knowledge slowly but surely and form the village? Everybody needs a place in this war, right? We got the folks that are going to be on the front line. We got the folks in the back end. Everybody got a place. This is where I've decided my place is going to be for this last part of my life. I've been on the front lines for over 20 years now, and I've loved it. I've been behind the scenes those first years as a kid, still in the, I guess I could say I was still in the front lines. I was still protesting. And luckily, I never got arrested because they ran out of handcuffs at Berkeley. I'll never forget, the man was like, you got a lucky day. And I went, yep. And I ran out. But it was only because it was over by then. And we had made our point. I'm asking you all to join this movement, get in where you fit in. And if where you fit in, you're just not there yet with all the outward stuff, you can definitely help a mother of a 10-year-old at home whose son has just asked her a question and she doesn't know how to answer it. She doesn't know how to answer it. I was lucky. I have one my son that you saw is biracial. He's half Chinese, half Black. We won't go there. That's another story over a glass of wine, just saying. But he asked me one day, Mom, where is we were in the African American bookstore, right? Which is where I lived, when he was about 6 or 7 years old, right? And he goes, Mom, where's the African American? Where's the Chinese bookstore? That's what he asked me. I said, huh. I said, son, I don't know. I don't know where the Chinese bookstore is, but you know what? There's Google. You go find out and you tell me. So he comes back about 2 or 3 days later and he says, Mom, did you know that I lived in California at the time? Did you know that in San Francisco, there's a whole town called Chinatown? I said, yeah, baby, I did know that. He's like, can we go there? Can we go to their bookstores? Absolutely. So we go to the bookstores and I spend a few months there, right? And the next thing he says to me is, we're in one of the bookstores. He says, Mom, where's African American town? Aha. Till next time, folks, these are the conversations we have to be able to have with our kids. So I'm saying, social justice warriors, do not fail at your job because of your passion or your profession. The key to the change in the world begins at home with you, yourself, and your family. Your one job, folks, is to raise an anti-racist family. And if you need support in that, we are here. We also need your help. This is a starting movement. So if you're interested in any of the above, to really get involved in the movement behind the scenes, these are the things that we are working on, building communities. We are actually in escrow on 56 acres out in Alabama to start an anti-racism youth center. We're moving, folks, and I would love to bring you along with me. And so I just want to say thank you. for having me. And if you need any support on this movement, know you always got Dr. Holt in your back pocket. And I'll always be right here. If nobody told you they love you today, remember Dr. Holt loves you. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Leave that up for a moment. Leave that up for just a moment so everyone can get your information. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think, thank you for that too.
That's how you break it down. I love it. Love it.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here and just your words of wisdom. And I think, a takeaway just for myself, because I don't have children, is just self-care. Just because I don't have children does not mean that I don't need to take care of myself. So I think you said something here for everyone. And I just.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to address that, Trisha, because if we don't have children ourselves, guess what? You're an auntie, an uncle, or somebody to somebody's kids,
right.
For sure. We have to have our villages and our communities. And I didn't get it for the sake of time. I didn't go there, but everybody is involved in a child's life. Yeah. And everybody has a role in building an anti-racist community.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you again. And you all can definitely reach out to us. We will pass Dr. Holt's information along to you. All right. Well, we are going to keep it moving. My goodness, the energy is just rolling. We have up next, another powerhouse coming before us. She hates when I say this. She is my boss. I also volunteer at SOAR, Strategic Obstacles to Overcome and Avoid Recidivism. She has been working in the community for about 20 years. She also is the CEO of Strategic Transitions and as well the host of Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream on WHPR in Detroit 88.1. Please show some love and warm hearts for my sister, my friend, Valerie Kelly Bonner. We can't hear you.
Okay, let me try. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I thought I was going to have that issue again, but I'm glad I don't. Thank God. Good evening or good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to come at you from a little bit of a different angle. And I'm going to start by saying beliefs, individual personality, and a sense of community can all together prime someone for a role as an activist. I'm going to say it again. Individual personality, a sense of community, and your beliefs can all prime you for the role as an activist. There are 4 primary roles, in my opinion, in the fight for justice and social activism. A citizen, a reformer. A reformer, their work basically is to work with officials in the judicial structures and the political system to incorporate solutions into new laws and policies and practices of society's public and private institutions. A rebel activist is someone that's going to give you a loud no. They protest social conditions and institutional policies and practices that violate core societal values and principles. Then you have your change agent. They work to educate, organize, and involve the public to actively oppose present policies and seek positive and constructive solutions. Each role has a different purpose, style, skill set, and needs that can be played effectively or ineffectively. And I believe we've all seen examples of those roles being played ineffectively. I'm a strategizer. I'm not a rebel on the front line per se. I have been there. And I challenge you to stretch yourself. How I got there was supporting my dear sister, Trisha, because she's so loyal and faithful to me when she started doing the protests. I had already said for years, I'm not a protester in the form of front lines, walking the street. But she was so loyal to me when she started protesting at the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. I decided to go there with her, she asked me to MC. The energy was so powerful in that moment. And I had on a walking cast, a cam boot. Before you know it, I'm walking and marching with people with my damn cam boot on. I'm not even supposed to be on my feet like that. But the energy was so powerful that I started to move with the movement. When I got back, I went back into my place and said to her, Trisha, I did march with you today, but I'm not a marcher. But I do challenge each and every person on this live, step out of your comfort zone. Do something that you have never done before, so you have facts on whether or not you really are fit for that job or not. You never know until you try it. You can't knock it until you try it. But I know that I am best suited as a strategist. As a strategist, all four roles are combined. A citizen, I'm a reformer, I can be a rebel, and I'm a change agent. They all go together. I need to understand each and every one of these roles, and I need to know the facts. I don't just move off of energy, the media, stories, things of that nature. Facts. You need hardcore facts, because you're going to be the one that the team comes to for the answers. So you need to know exactly what you're talking about and what you stand for. If you're a great reader, you can be part of a strategizing team by just researching the facts and reporting the facts out to the reformer or to the rebel or to the change agent. If you're an avid newscast watcher, same thing. You can report those things out to the team that you work with. Being a strategizer is like playing chess. You know everybody that's on the board with you, and you know how they move, and you move them accordingly for your win. It's not a game of checkers where you just jump into conclusions and say, crown me. You're actually moving each piece and understanding that with every move you make, the next 2 or 3 have already been planned out in your mind. The 2 most important days in my life was the day I was born and the day that I found out why. And they were years apart from each other. As educated as I am, the 2 most powerful words I have learned in my life is I am. Because what is put after those shapes my reality. Dr. King said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy in perilous times. So I say to everyone under the sound of my voice, where do you stand? Because we are living in perilous times. Are you a citizen, reformer, rebel, change agent, or a strategizer? Do you know your why? What is your why? If I asked you right now, what is your why? What is your purpose for being here on this earth? Would you be able to answer that? And lastly, I will say, whether you are volunteering to help bring water out on protest days, whether you're the citizen, reformer, rebel, all of those things are important and needed. I will end by saying, whatever you consider yourself as, aspire to inspire before you expire. That concludes my presentation.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Valerie. Very, very powerful words. And when we find out our why, it's extremely life-changing. I'm still learning, but I'm thankful to be on the path to my fullest potential, and you can too. All it takes is just a change of thought and a change of heart, because a lot of times we're in our head when we should be in our heart. Let's find that balance and do the work. All right, we're going to keep it moving. We are next to, this is actually one of our co-hosts from the Bend of Arc, Jewish Action, Greater Ann Arbor. We are so thankful to have with us activist Rebecca Epstein.
Hi, thank you so much, Touche, for organizing this event. I'm deeply honored to be here and to take in and marinate in the wisdom of these powerful activists and strategists that have already spoken. I feel like a featherweight in a heavyweight class. My name is Rebecca Epstein. I'm a founding lead volunteer of a local group of Bend the Arc activists. Bend the Arc is a national organization of progressive Jews that are focused on domestic issues. So their national staff provide seasoned, studied community organizing, activism coaching to pockets of progressive Jewish volunteers all over the country. And at the center of the coaching we get is we need to amplify the work of Black community organizers and community organizers of color. And I want to point out that a lot of those community organizers and activists, at least some of them, they're also Jewish. It's a myth that all Jews are white. So recent studies estimate that Black Jews and Jews of color comprise between 10 to 15% of American Jewry in our country. Our country. Jews are Black, Jews are Mexican American, Jews are Indigenous American, Jews are Ethiopian American, Jews are biracial, Jews are Chinese American, Jews are even Arabic American. Now, a lot of Jewish people who present as white have not historically welcomed people with darker skin into our institutions. And I think community organizing together is a great path to strengthening ties between Black people and Jewish people and other people of color. So I want to reiterate something I said earlier, which is that Bend the Arc focuses on domestic issues. So I am taking my Bend the Arc hat off for a minute, because if I'm going to break down myths about Jews, I have to focus on something international, which is that all Jews do not support the government of Israel. There's a wide range of organizations domestically and internationally. Some of the domestic organizations that fight for Palestinian rights are not in my name: Jewish Voice for Peace and J Street. Myself, I meet every other week with a group of 6 Jews and 6 Palestinian women, and we share our lives together. We refuse to hate each other. And among other things, we fundraise and raise awareness for an organization that serves several hamlets in South Hebron, which is an area occupied by the Israeli military. Okay, I'm going to put my Bend the Arc hat back on, and I want to dispel another myth, which is that all Jews are rich and greedy for more money. Now, I don't want to ignore that many American Jews do have money, but like every other group, some are wealthy and some are poor. And many Jews have taken advantage of presenting as white within our racist capitalist system, and they've benefited economically. But it's really important to realize that portraying Jews as rich and greedy is an old, if not ancient, stereotype. In what my great-grandmother would have called the old country, literate Jews were forced into the dangerous role of being debt collectors. These Jews did not own a lot of money, but they were forced to collect a lot of money. So stereotypes of wealthy, greedy Jews are being perpetuated because they are familiar. And familiarity and racism are BFFs. And I'm going to be preaching to the choir, I know, a little bit here. So anti-Semite, anti-Black, anti-Islam, anti-immigrant ideologies are tied and tangled together. White nationalists believe these groups are biologically inferior and not really American, and maybe not even human beings. White nationalists believe that Jews are responsible for pulling the strings behind the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And white nationalists believe that Jews are magic and that Jews collectively control capitalism and the media. But you know, and I know, that Jews are not magic. I'm not magic. You know that dividing groups helps white nationalists and it hurts us. You know and I know that we have to stand together and be united. We're stronger together. We're stronger together. So, and the ARC Greater Ann Arbor does lots of different types of social action, from teaching parents how to redirect their children that might be playing police to playing resistance fighter instead. We have educational social justice family play dates. We organized a prosecutors forum when Eli Slavitt was a candidate. We do protests as well, but we try to give something for everybody, including potentially arrestable actions. So in the panel right now, not in the panel, sorry, in the chat, I'm gonna drop I just dropped our email address. So you have that if you want to get in touch with me. To the panelists, I'm definitely going to be getting in touch with you. And to any of the attendees who said at the first poll that they maybe weren't sure whether they were an activist or not, and they want to have a conversation and flush that idea out, I'm here. Please get in touch with me. So we are going to be focusing, Bend the Arc is going to be focusing on racial justice in Ann Arbor and in Washtenaw County, supporting immigrants in our community, and engaging family members of all ages in social justice. We're having our first meeting of the year on Sunday, January 24th at 7. And with that, I'm going to cue Truche to play a video. It's a song written by another progressive Jewish activist. Her name is Batya Levine. And this song is performed by the Interfaith Music Project of Philadelphia.
Give us maybe 30 more seconds of your talking.
Sure. I will talk about my kids. I have a 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. One of the Bend the Arc actions that I did that really helped solidify what I'm hoping is conveying my values and activism onto my son, my older son, is attending a rally in Dearborn in 2018. It was shortly before the Dearborn City Council dissolved their voluntary agreement with ICE to detain undocumented people that they had arrested. And that it was very fortuitous. Usually you don't see the results of your actions so soon, but in the case of my son, he went to a protest. 2 weeks later, something had changed. So that was very meaningful for us.
And
of determination, let us move on. In these powerful days, these days of challenge, to make America what it ought to be. We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. I want to thank God.
Wow. How beautiful. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here with us again. That was Rebecca Epstein. I'm from Bend the Arc, Jewish Action, Greater Ann Arbor. Well, we are nearing the end. If we have a few moments, we will have people ask some questions if they want. But before we close, we've got a couple calls to action. So we are so honored to have with us here. She has so many different hats, so I don't know which one to name right now, but I will say that she is newly elected to the Ann Arbor Public School Board, and so we are so thankful to have with us Crystal Dupree. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much for inviting me. So I am a member of the Ann Arbor Public School Board. I'm a trustee, but I am also the political director for Black Lives Matter Ann Arbor. So those are the two things that I do. So when Trisha asked me to do this, I had to really think about what it means to be a call for action. Like, what does that actually mean, right? And like when we think of a call to action, for some of us, a call to action or a call for activism, to me and many others, is to call to enter a battle that has begun long before we are sitting here today. It's a struggle for equity and justice, for human rights and human dignity, a fight for Black and Brown people to feel safe and safe in the communities where we lay our heads, be it Joy Road and Dexter, be it First and Harriet, or University and Stadium. It is a call for our allies to prove that you believe that all Black lives matter. And it doesn't matter if that person is a substance user or incarcerated, no matter our economic or familial status, no matter our gender identity or sexual identity or our ability. This call is for you to speak your truth to power or be a person in power that actually speaks the truth. Now, 6 days into our new year, we saw MAGA misfits and white supremacists highlight a nation's hypocrisy. Every day, we learn more and more about those involved in the terrorist attack at the Capitol. In the past week, we've heard of threats on every state capitol in our nation. And according to recent reports, the Lansing Police, in conjunction with the Michigan State Police and the FBI, the National Guard, and Ingham County, they're expecting an uncertain number of right-wing terrorists in Lansing. I've heard even some of my activist friends saying that they're just going to shelter in place. So what do you do when the world is coming at you? You armor up and you fight. You find your space in this fight. For me, my armor is my faith. And you have to figure out what your armor looks like. How does your self-care look? How do you sharpen your tools? How do you keep yourself safe? Now, although I'm not the most religious Muslim you'll ever meet, my dean really does guide my direction. So today I wanted to share a few words that actually help me in this fight. Hopefully you'll like them, you'll adopt them. If not, it's all good too. So, so one is the 49th Surah, 13th Ayah. So a Surah is a chapter, Ayah is like a verse. So, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations and tribes that ye may know each other, not that ye may despise each other. Verily, most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you. And Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted of all things. Also in the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his last sermon. All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab has any superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over black, where black has no superiority over white, except by piety and good action. And of course, we couldn't finish this off without my brother Malcolm, Malik al-Shabazz, in which he said in his debate at Oxford, December 3rd, 1964, and in my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you are living in a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built. And the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join with anyone. I don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change the miserable condition that exists on this earth. We are living in a time of extremism. And one of the most powerful things we can do is fight for one another in the face of an ideology that seeks to disempower and break us apart. I ask you to find your niche, to use your voice, and just don't be silent. That's all I got.
Wow. So in the poetry world, whenever something is just amazing, you just kind of snap it up. So we're snapping it up for you, Crystal. Thank you again for that wonderful call to action. We're getting ready to come to a close here. You will actually get by email a survey, and we are asking, please, if you all will take the survey and take away these words that were spoken today in your heart. One last call to action. Okay, I see some hands raised there. So if you do have some questions, definitely we want to answer them if our panelists are available to stick around. All right, so call to action. What does that look like? It's a lot of different things and more than on this list, but get busy. Get busy. There's a song, I don't know who did it. It's a rap song. Get busy, y'all. So yes, please get busy. Put your hands to the plow. You know your area. You know your area based on your gift, where you are at. Like someone said, you may be a researcher. You may be able to break those numbers down. You may be the frontline person. You may be the behind the scene person. Whatever person you are, we appreciate you. You bring value to this. We need you. Also, link up with organizations. We have some great organizations here today. Bend of Arc, ICPJ, Just Leadership USA, the Girard Movement. I hope I did not miss anybody. That's what happens when you start calling names off. You might miss someone. Dearborn for Accountability, of Michigan Liberation. Let me just say, big ups to Michigan Liberation. Michigan Liberation has been trailblazing all over the state of Michigan, but especially heavily in the Detroit area and surrounding areas. So we just want to give a salute to our brothers and our sisters and our siblings at Michigan Liberation. So please get involved with these agencies and research some other agencies that may fit your area. Contact your legislators. Let's explain something very quickly. When we elect individuals, they work for us. So we have to partner with them and on the agenda moving forward. Guess what's been missing from the table in that partnership? Us. Because we elect them and then we go away and some of us complain. Sometimes we protest and then we go back home. And then 4 years later, we're either electing them again or not. But we have to get a seat at the table and stay there. They are doing their jobs and you have to do yours, because if they're not doing their job, your position is to hold them accountable. Also, strategically plan these interactions, maybe on a monthly basis. We're thinking about seeing if we can meet with our new prosecutor in Washtenaw County on a monthly basis, just as a level of accountability. We don't know if if he will accept that, but these are things that you can do. Also, sacrifice. You are not going to embark upon this fight and think that you won't lose something. It might be a friend. It might be 5 minutes of, your extra time. It might be, your job, okay? Because when you start to speak truth for power, sometimes people don't like it. But if you really want to join this fight, you have to be willing to lose something for the greater good. Because you will gain it back, trust me. Speak up if you see something. That might be your part. We look away too much. All of us, we see things, and because it's easier, we look away. But remember, when something happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. All right, and then teach your children to fight in the right way from an early age. We are so grateful for Dr. Holt and just what she brought in, and just explaining that it does start at home, of taking care of your family and taking care of your home, but leading the family in an anti-racist way. That was just amazing. There's so much more that we can do, but guess what? We got to do it together. That's the only true way that we win. We do it together. All right, let's see. We got a question here. I think, okay, yep, Ellie already answered that in the box. Okay. Is there anyone else? I apologize, I joined late. Will this recording be accessible? Yes, yes, it will be. We are definitely going to put this out actually momentarily when we end. So let me read that question though, and then you all can read the response because we definitely want to acknowledge this family. So it says, as whites, we are deeply concerned about racial injustice. We, my partner and I, are dedicated to leveraging our white privilege to be the most effective anti-racist we can be. And as parents of an LGBTQ child, we are also extremely passionate about justice for that community. We firmly believe that intersectionality is the way forward. One band, one sound. Occasionally, however, when we bring up these struggles of the LGBT community and other groups in contexts where the primary focus is racial justice, we get pushed back. Okay, and so Ellie, go ahead.
Yes. So with that, I understand the pushback being that a lot of the world, or there's a lot of people who need to do work on themselves. There's a lot of people who aren't accepting those in the LGBTQ community. There's people I know who's all about the cause and still haven't fully accepted the LGBTQ community. So there's that is gonna be a battle for a while, at least until that is a regular thing. Pronouns and things like that should be, like, until that is regular thing, that will be a battle that will happen a lot. But in terms of what you can do, it's okay to fight for LGBTQ rights. That is perfectly fine in this movement, as long as you guys are upholding, being good allies, uplifting Black voices and things like that. Then that's perfectly fine, as long as your messaging encompasses those that are most affected, then you're fine. And that has reflected in the LGBTQ community. If you look at Marsha P. Johnson, look at her, what happened to her. In her case, I mean, those who are trans and Black, those who are, like, it's hard. So, I mean, as long as you're uplifting those things and your messaging encompasses that in this fight, and that's perfectly fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ellie, for that. Thank you for asking that question. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Shatina, I don't know if you had your hand raised. I'm trying to find you. Okay, I see Sabrina. Okay, go ahead. Did it come on? Sabrina, you can unmute yourself now. Patrick, just one moment. If you don't leave, please, I need to. Okay, there you go. You can unmute yourself now.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Hello, everybody. Awesome presentation, I must say. I was just gonna say, could you guys provide a few resources down that would, that can help us, as well as, for the awesome panelists, if you guys can provide resources. I know there was a lot of talk on anti-racism. However, I'm an advocate for sexual assault, survivors of sexual assault and things like that. So I would really love resources and people that I can network with in that area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And actually, that is something that is definitely very important to us at Survivor Speak. And there are other agencies as well. Are you in the Washtenaw County area?
No, I'm actually in Wayne County.
Okay, in Wayne County. Okay. If you want to connect offline, and I do believe that I have your email address, but if you would like to email me when we're done here, and we can definitely get some resources to you and kind of connect and see how we can build with you as well.
Okay, awesome.
And then there are some things in the chat. I think Crystal said the Sasha Center is a great place. So
yeah, I'm very I speak with often Kalima Johnson, as well as Wayne County Safe. I know they just changed their names, but there are some places that I'm familiar with, but I'm always looking for opportunities to, grow my network.
yes, we definitely understand. Well, we definitely are looking forward to connect with you and any other groups here that would like to reach out to you as well. So thank you so much. Let me see here. Do we have another hand? Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. So, our last person that just I missed her name. So that made me think. We need some type of group or organization or something that would encompass survivors of police brutality, because as far as I know, we don't have anything like that. Um, we, meaning myself and others, we deal with a range of emotion. And, when you talk to people, if they haven't experienced it, they can't really relate. They can sympathize, but they cannot empathize. And I really think that that is necessary. It's very necessary. I have seen a therapist for this type of issue and was diagnosed with PTSD. My doctor diagnosed me with anxiety, some situational depression, but even dealing and speaking with a professional about those diagnoses, they still cannot relate to what I have been through. So me talking to them still kind of, I'm getting out my feelings, but I'm still feeling on a level of not being unheard because she has not dealt with that situation. And I yield.
Thank you so much for your words. And if you all do not know, that is Shatina Gradiel. She is the woman, and her husband, Daniel Gradiel, were both assaulted by a police officer at Washtenaw County. So thank you for your words and just your call to action to us all to, if there aren't resources in place, to bring those resources in place for individuals who are suffering with that. And like you said, people that can understand and associate with what you're feeling. So thank you so much. And we definitely uplift you in this moment.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, did Shannon, I believe, have your hand up, or did you already?
No. If I did by accident, it was an accident.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, we are at a close. We're about 5 minutes over, but we just want to thank everyone. Let me see. I see another question that came in. Okay, we've already addressed that one. Oh, here we go. And this can be to our panel. What is the difference between an advocate or an activist? Is there a difference or not? Anyone want to take the? Okay, Allie.
I think there's a difference. I feel like with an activist, you're doing a lot. Like you're advocating goes everywhere with you. Like, not advocating, but activism goes everywhere with you. It goes to work with you. It goes home with you. It goes to the store. It's a never turning it off. It's at protests. It's things like that. It's everywhere. Whereas advocating, you know, you have a specific thing you advocate for. It could be in relation to your job, and that's what you advocate for. It's not as, you're not doing as much, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to explain, but I feel like an activist is more well-rounded. Like you're on the ground, and you're like, you do multiple things. Whereas an advocate, you stick to that piece, one piece, and you stay in that lane.
Yeah, I think so. An advocate, and I just looked it up really quickly. An advocate is a person who publicly supports or recommends a particular cause or policy. While an activist is a person who campaigns to bring about political or social change. And I think the biggest one there for me is the differences are recommends and campaigns, right? Because we said what we said, right? Like, that's it. We mean it. We mean racial equity now, okay? Or we're going to continue to organize, advocate, all of that. And it is not, again, to downplay anyone's role, right? Because that is a part of the pie. That is a piece of the puzzle. Everyone has their role, everyone has their place, but there is a slight difference. And maybe advocates say it a little more nicely than activists, I don't know. But so, all right, let's see. It looks like that is it. We are going to close. Thank you all so much for being here. Again, whatever you do, find your place. Find your place, and then get in this race and understand that we've got to run it together. I believe if we unify and we come together and we learn to accept each other's differences, right? Different is okay. It's okay. Differences are okay. And then building relationships with people who we don't even know. This weekend, or was it last weekend? I think it might have been last weekend. I met this wonderful warrior, Patrick. I'm not calling his name out right. I don't even want to pronounce his name because I might chop it up. But we had a wonderful call, and we just met each other in our hearts. Right? I've never met this individual in my life in person, but we met each other in our hearts that day, and he is forever in my heart. We've got to open our hearts to each other. We've got to learn to love each other. Then we can unify, and then we can fight this fight together. Thank you all so much for being here. You have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Nice seeing y'all for like 10 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you, Touche.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. Oh my goodness. Why didn't I say that? Duh. Thank you to all of the wonderful, wonderful panelists. We truly appreciate you all.